After my parents called me too fat to wear white at my sister's engagement party, they made me sit in the kitchen to avoid embarrassing the photos. My sister just smiled and said, "It's for the best." They didn't expect what I had been planning all month. I, 32 female, have always had a complicated relationship with my family, especially with my mom and younger sister. I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina, born and raised. My family still lives there, in one of those big homes tucked into Biltmore Forest. Big red brick, a winding driveway, a garden that gets professionally maintained. Picture perfect on the outside. Inside, though? It's been a slow burn of emotional neglect, favoritism, and body shaming. I used to try to convince myself it wasn't that bad. That maybe I was sensitive or overreacting. But I've learned that a wound doesn't have to bleed to hurt. And when your own mother looks at you like your existence is an inconvenience, it changes something in you. I'm not thin. I've never been. I'm not morbidly obese either, just average, soft, a bit heavier than what my mother has always deemed acceptable. She's one of those women who still brags about fitting into her wedding dress and buys fat-burning creams for fun. Growing up, she never missed a chance to suggest I watch what I ate. Comments like, "Do you really need seconds?" Or "You'd be so pretty if you just lost a little around the hips." And my dad? Dennis is the quiet enabler. He rarely says anything cruel directly, but his silence always follows her cruelty like a shadow. My younger sister Celeste, 28 female, was the chosen one from birth. She was the blonde, blue-eyed baby who looked like she'd walked out of a toothpaste commercial. She got the designer clothes, the praise, the attention. I got the lectures. Celeste was never mean to me in public, but in private, she knew just how to twist the knife with a smile. When I got my period late, she joked that it was because my body didn't know what to do with all the extra fat. When I tried out for drama club, she said, "Maybe you'll be cast as the tree." I moved out as soon as I could and put myself through college. Now I work for a nonprofit and live in a small but lovely apartment with my dog, Luna. I don't see them often. A few holiday visits, obligatory birthdays. But then Celeste got engaged. Of course, the whole family was thrilled. Her fiancé, Travis, is exactly the kind of guy I expected her to land, tall, handsome, comes from money, works in marketing. They met at UNC and have been together for a couple years. He's fine. We've never really connected, but he's always polite. She announced the engagement with a professionally photographed picnic proposal, and the next thing I knew, my mother was calling me to invite me to the engagement party they were throwing at the house. I almost didn't go. I've spent years trying to detach from the toxic grip they've had on me. But a small, stupid part of me still wanted to be included. Maybe, just maybe, this would be the event where they saw me differently. Treated me like a real part of the family. So I went shopping. I found this beautiful wrap dress, off-white, soft jersey fabric that made me feel comfortable and, for once, pretty. I knew it was a risk, wearing whitish to an engagement party. But it wasn't bridal white, and I wasn't trying to steal any spotlight. I just wanted to feel good in my skin. The moment I walked in, I felt the air shift. My mom was arranging appetizers in the kitchen when she saw me. Her eyes landed on my dress, then flicked up to my face, and the corners of her mouth tightened. "White," she said, not loudly, but loud enough. I froze. I hadn't even put my purse down yet. "I just thought it was a nice dress," I said, trying to brush it off. My dad looked up from the drink cart and just muttered, "Well, I guess it's too late now." He didn't even look at me directly. Celeste came gliding down the staircase 5 minutes later, wearing this ridiculous rose gold gown with sequins. Like she was walking into the Oscars. She looked at me and smirked. "That's a bold choice, Nora," she said. Then added, "It's okay. Just stay out of the formal photos." She said it like it was a joke. But she wasn't laughing. And then, God, I still can't believe they actually did this. About 30 minutes before guests arrived, my mom pulled me into the kitchen, just the two of us. I thought maybe she was going to apologize, or tell me I looked nice despite the dress drama. But instead, she said, "Listen, we've been thinking. Just for the photos, maybe you could stay in here? Just during the group shots." I blinked. "In the kitchen? It's just, we don't want any distractions. These are professional pictures, and, well, you know how the camera can be." I just stared at her. I wanted to believe I'd misheard. That I wasn't being told to hide like a dirty secret. Celeste walked in right after and added, "It's for the best, Nora. Seriously. Let's not make it a thing." I felt my throat tighten, but I nodded. I didn't trust myself to speak. So while the guests started arriving and mingling with champagne flutes and bite-sized hors d'oeuvres, I sat in the kitchen. Alone. Next to the wine fridge. They brought me a plate of food and said, "We'll get you later for the toast." That was when I knew I wasn't just excluded, I was erased. But here's what none of them knew. A few weeks earlier, I had received an email from a private investigator named Harper. I had hired her months ago on a hunch. I never really planned to follow through. It was one of those late-night, rage-fueled decisions you think you'll regret by morning. But I didn't regret it. In fact, Harper had found things. Big things. Things about my father. I'll continue in the next post, this is getting long. But let's just say, I didn't waste my time sitting in that kitchen. So there I was, sitting in the kitchen in my offensive white dress, looking like a forgotten staff member while my family played house in the other room. I could hear the laughter, the clinking of glasses, the flashes from the photographer's camera. I imagined Celeste posing with her champagne and her perfect smile. My mom is probably barking instructions to the photographer to get everyone's good angles. I wasn't even sure if my name would be mentioned during the toast. I was the embarrassment, the blemish they wanted cropped out. But again, what they didn't know was that I hadn't just come for the party. 2 weeks before the engagement event, Harper had sent me a file, well, several files, actually. I hadn't told her much at first. Just that I had suspicions about my dad's business trips. That I thought there was someone else. I wasn't even sure why I cared, or what I'd do with the information. Maybe I just wanted something to prove I wasn't crazy, that the emptiness I felt when I was around my family had a source. Harper did her job. Thoroughly. Turns out my father had been having an affair for at least a year and a half. And not with some random coworker. With someone I actually remembered from my childhood. Her name was Liana. She used to babysit me and Celeste when we were little. She was maybe 10 years older than me and always smelled like spearmint gum and tanning lotion. My mom fired her when Celeste was in middle school, but I didn't know why at the time. Now I wonder if she suspected something even back then. Harper found photos, lots of them. Hotel receipts. Bank transfers. Even a vacation they took to Costa Rica 6 months ago, during one of his corporate retreats. But it wasn't just cheating. That would have been bad enough. He was also using my mom's investment account to fund his double life. Harper sent over bank statements that made my stomach turn. Tens of thousands of dollars moved around, gifts, spa packages, jewelry. One charge stood out, a $9,200 down payment on a house in Lake Lure. In Liana's name. He was planning a new life. A quiet one, built on stolen money and lies. When I found out, I didn't rage. I didn't call him or my mother. I didn't even cry. What I felt was something colder. More focused. I started building a folder. Screenshots, documents, dates, even a spreadsheet with transaction descriptions and timestamps. I organized everything like I would for one of my work audits. Precise. Clean. Unmistakable. I didn't know what I would do with it, until that moment in the kitchen. That moment when they made it so brutally clear I didn't matter. When they told me I was too fat for family photos. When my sister smiled and said, "It's for the best." They gave me clarity. And that was when the plan clicked into place. I'd already spoken to my best friend Jules, who owed me big time after I helped her move out of her ex's place last fall. She's not techie, but she's confident with a laptop and has no fear of confrontation. I handed her a USB drive 3 days before the party and told her, "You'll know when." The slideshow was on a timer. We coordinated it so Jules would plug into the projector as soon as the toast began, and the Family Memories slideshow would start. That's what I labeled the file. Family Memories. Back in the kitchen, I was watching the clock, barely able to taste the goat cheese crostini someone had dropped off with a napkin. I heard the tapping of a glass for attention. It had started. From the kitchen door, I could see Celeste standing in front of the fireplace, glowing under the warm lights, holding her champagne flute like she was Miss North Carolina. Travis was beside her, looking a little drunk but happy. My mother was smiling so hard her cheeks looked stiff. My dad had his hand on her lower back. Then came the first image. I knew the moment it hit because there was this weird silence, like the kind that fills a room before a storm. It was a photo of my dad and Liana, taken on the beach. He was wearing cargo shorts and sunglasses, and he had his hand on her thigh. They were laughing. Someone in the crowd laughed, thinking it was part of a joke. Then came the second photo. My dad and Liana, in a hot tub, sharing a drink with little umbrellas. The third photo was a scanned receipt for a suite at the Umstead Hotel and Spa in Cary. The fourth was a close-up of a necklace my mom owned, but this one was on Liana's neck. Same piece. Same pendant. Different woman. By the fifth image, the room had gone silent. No more laughter. No glasses clinking. Just whispers. And then came the bank statements. The spreadsheet. The transfer logs. My dad's signature on the withdrawal form. Dates. Amounts. Names. Jules told me later it ran for a full 5 minutes before my mom yanked the power cord out of the projector. People had started murmuring, and Celeste was frozen, her hand halfway up to her mouth. I waited until the chaos had fully set in. Then I stepped out of the kitchen, walked into the room in my unflattering white dress, and stood at the edge of the crowd. Some people looked at me with pity. Others with curiosity. A few, those who knew my parents better, just nodded. I didn't say a word. Not yet. My mother was pale. My dad had that cornered animal look in his eyes. Celeste looked like she was trying to disassociate entirely. I walked up to the drink table, poured myself a half glass of sparkling water, and raised it just slightly in my dad's direction. Then I said, loud enough for everyone still present to hear, "Sorry if I ruined your photos." And I left. Not forever. Not yet. But I walked out of that house like someone stepping through a door that should have been closed years ago. I'll come back here soon with the aftermath, because the fallout was just beginning. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. I drove home that night with my phone blowing up in the passenger seat. At first it was just texts from Jules, holy hell, Nora. That was legendary. Jules, your mom screamed. Like, actually screamed. Not even exaggerating. Jules, your dad left in someone else's car. Jules, I love you. I'm scared of you. You're a goddess. I didn't respond right away. I was still too tightly wound, my fingers locked on the steering wheel, knuckles white. I wasn't trembling exactly. It was more like my body hadn't figured out yet that I wasn't in a fight anymore. The adrenaline had nowhere to go. Luna greeted me like I'd been gone for days when I walked through the door. I sat on the floor and just let her lick my hands while I stared at nothing, the silence in my apartment thick and strange after the chaos. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was my mother. I didn't even read the message. I just muted the thread. The thing is, I didn't feel triumphant. Not in that TV drama way, where the wrong daughter walks away smiling with a string quartet playing in the background. It wasn't satisfying. It was grief. Because there's a part of you that still wants to be loved by the people who should have loved you first. Even after the shame. Even after the cruelty. Even after they make you feel like you're nothing but an inconvenient shadow at your own sister's celebration. The next morning, I woke up to a voicemail. Not from my mom. Not from my dad. But from Celeste. Hey, her voice sounded stiff. I guess I just wanted to say, that was really unnecessary. Like, you could have talked to us privately. This wasn't the time or place. You basically ruined one of the biggest nights of my life, and honestly? That was selfish. I hope you're proud of yourself. Click. No apology. Not even curiosity. Not a single word about what was actually in the slideshow. Just, image control. She was mad that I disrupted the fairy tale. That I punctured her performance. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilt for making her uncomfortable. I didn't respond. I got dressed, walked Luna around the neighborhood, and made myself a full breakfast. I even wore the white dress again, just because. Around 11 a.m., Jules showed up at my door with 2 coffees and a face full of gleeful horror. Okay, she said as soon as I let her in, are we talking about it or pretending it never happened? I laughed. Genuinely. Maybe for the first time in weeks. She sat on my couch and filled me in on everything that happened after I left. My dad had stormed out halfway through the slideshow and got into a car with someone, likely a friend who wasn't even supposed to be there but came for the free drinks. My mom had gone upstairs and didn't come down for the rest of the night. Celeste tried to rally, telling guests it was a personal family matter and she hoped people would stay and enjoy the party, but about half the guests left anyway. Travis, apparently, had no idea about any of it and looked like he'd seen a ghost. He didn't say much, but he and Celeste were arguing in the hallway as Jules left. Was it nuclear? I asked her. She shrugged. Maybe. But honestly, it felt like you were just flipping over a rotted log and letting the light hit it. That line stuck with me. That's what it had always been, hadn't it? My family was a perfectly arranged lie. Our house, our manners, our appearances, just a rotted log. The mold had been growing under it for years. All I did was turn it over. By Monday, the fallout had started to spread beyond the family. I got a call from Aunt Riva, my mom's older sister. She's always been a bit of a black sheep herself, never married, lives alone in Tennessee, and sends me hand-knitted scarves every Christmas. She left a message saying she'd seen the presentation and wanted to talk. We spoke that evening. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you, she said. It was a damn bold thing to do. About time someone said something. I teared up. You knew? I didn't have the details, but I knew your dad was dirty. Your mom always covered for him. And I knew how they treated you. There was a long pause. You don't deserve that. Never did. No one had ever said that to me out loud before. I didn't realize how badly I needed to hear it. More calls came in that week. Some cousins. A friend of the family who apologized for never standing up for me. One of Celeste's old friends, Michelle, I think, sent me a DM on Instagram saying she always thought Celeste was weirdly competitive with me and that I didn't deserve to be treated like a prop. I stayed silent publicly, though. No Facebook posts. No explanations. No arguments. I just lived. Quietly. The following weekend, I drove out to Lake Lure. Alone. I had the address from one of the mortgage documents Harper had found. I just wanted to see it. To see the life my dad had planned to start, the home he was building with a woman who used to change my diapers. The house wasn't finished yet. New siding, a porch under construction, but the structure was there. I stood outside my car for a long time, looking at it. Imagining the lie. Imagining my mother, unaware that her marriage was being dissolved one check at a time. Imagining how much energy it must have taken for him to keep both realities running. And then I drove home. No vandalism. No confrontation. I just wanted to see what he was willing to burn his whole family down for. That week, I got an email from my mom. She said she was heartbroken, ashamed, and humiliated. Not by him. By me. She wrote, "You aired our dirty laundry in front of everyone we know. You've destroyed your sister's engagement memories. Your father made mistakes, but what you did was cruel." She ended the email with, "I don't know if we can forgive you for this. Forgive me." That was the moment everything inside me snapped into place. I didn't need their forgiveness. I needed freedom. And I had taken it. Not with violence. Not with screaming. Just with truth. And now, for the first time, I'm learning what it feels like to belong to myself. But the story's not over yet. There's more. Especially about what happened with Travis. And how Celeste's perfect world began to fall apart. About a week after the party, I got a text from Travis. I wasn't expecting it. It was short. Just, "Would you be open to meeting for coffee? Just want to talk." I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wondered if this was some kind of trap. Maybe he'd decided to take Celeste's side, maybe he wanted to yell at me for humiliating them. But curiosity won out. We met at a little place in downtown Asheville, neutral territory. He was already sitting when I arrived, a coffee untouched in front of him. He stood up when I walked in. Still polite, still polished. But he looked tired, like the kind of tired you can't fix with sleep. "Thanks for coming," he said. I sat down. We made small talk at first, weather, work, nothing deep. And then he sighed, leaned forward, and said, "Was it all true? Everything you showed?" I nodded. He didn't ask for proof. He just closed his eyes and muttered, Jesus. Turns out, he'd confronted Celeste the night of the party. She'd denied everything at first, tried to say it was taken out of context, that I had doctored the files, and that I was jealous. When that didn't stick, she turned it around on him, accusing him of not defending her, not being supportive. And that, he said, was when I realized I didn't actually know who I was marrying. He hadn't moved out yet, but he was planning to. He'd already canceled the engagement photographer, called the venue to ask about deposit refunds, and talked to a lawyer about the ring. Why are you telling me this? I asked. He hesitated. Because I wanted you to know you weren't crazy. And I'm sorry for not seeing it sooner. We talked for over an hour. He told me he'd always noticed something weird in the family dynamic, how they treated me, how Celeste seemed to measure herself against me constantly even though I was never competing. I thought it was just family quirks, he said. But now I see it was rotten. We parted on good terms. No drama. Just a quiet understanding that, in his own way, he'd been a pawn too. And he was choosing not to be anymore. 2 days later, I got an email from Celeste. Short and bitter. Travis left. You win. Hope it was worth it. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That wasn't the victory I wanted. The real victory was watching the mask crack. The performance unraveled. By the end of that week, Celeste had deleted all the engagement photos off social media. She posted a vague story about focusing on self-growth and learning from heartbreak. Mutual friends told me she was laying low, possibly taking time off work. I kept out of it. I let the storm pass through without opening my door. Then came the call from my mom. Almost 3 weeks after the party. She didn't leave a message the first time. Or the second. Or third. Finally, on the fourth try, she left a voicemail. Nora. I've been thinking a lot. And I want to talk. Please. Just hear me out. I waited a day. Then I called back. She answered on the first ring. Her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. I'm sorry, she said. Not just for what happened. For everything. For how we've treated you. I don't know how to undo it, but I want to try. It didn't fix everything. It didn't erase 32 years of damage. But it mattered. We talked for over an hour. She admitted she'd known about my father's behavior for a while, suspected things, but never wanted to face it. That she'd taken it out on me in ways she wasn't proud of. That she saw Celeste's cruelty and chose to ignore it. I didn't want to lose the picture, she said. What picture? The family picture. The one where everything looked right. I told her the truth, that picture had never been real. And chasing it cost all of us something we couldn't get back. A week later, she filed for divorce. Quietly, without fanfare. I heard from Aunt Reva that my dad moved in with Liana, temporarily. But she'd apparently kicked him out within a month when the money stopped flowing. Last I heard, he was renting a small apartment in South Asheville and trying to sell his watch collection for cash. He hasn't called me. Not once. And I'm fine with that. Celeste and I haven't spoken since her text. I'm not sure if we ever will. But here's the thing I've realized in all of this: revenge doesn't have to be cruel to be satisfying. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge is living a life that no longer revolves around people who treated you like a footnote. I started therapy. I'm not ashamed to say that. There are layers of pain that I'm still unpacking, layers I didn't even know were there. But it's helping. I've also joined a local hiking group, signed up for a ceramics class, and finally started putting together a photo wall in my apartment. Real memories. With real people. No fake smiles. I still have the white dress. And I still wear it. Because it turns out, I was never too fat for white. I was just too bold for a family that preferred to keep their shadows well lit.